Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly Premier League Preview Part 2. We begin with Hull City. They've signed a lot of players, have an interesting manager in Sergei Yakirovich, but will do well to stop anyone putting them rock bottom. Ipswich have no Kieran McKenna, so bring in Gary O'Neill, who is sometimes really good at managing a side nearer the foot of the table. Leeds were great for the second half of last season. Can Daniel Farke push on? And then Liverpool, one of the sides who could push for the title. Iraola is a famously slow starter and they've lost a lot of experience in the summer. All of our Manchester City predictions have plummeted after the Community Shield, following Pep's so hard. How will Enzo Maresca do? Meanwhile, the difficult first full season for Michael Carrick at Old Trafford. Newcastle have sold all their players and Eddie Howe's gone. Forest have Glasner. Him and Marinakis sounds like fun. Sunderland surprised us all last year. Can they go again? And Spurs have the chance to finish 17th for the third season running. I mean, who knows? This is the Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Jarrett-Bryan, welcome.
Hello, mate.
Hello, Nicky Bandini.
Morning.
And welcome, Barry Glendenning.
Hello.
And I think that intro got all the teams in the right places, Barry, compared to the first half of the Premier
Couldn't have been worse than yesterday's.
Absolutely right. We are recording on a Tuesday in case there's some dramatic news between now and when this comes out on a Thursday. We begin with Hull City, so managed by Sergei Yakirovich. They brought in a bucket load of players. Nobel Mendy from Vallecano, Konstantinos Tsoulakis from Olympiacos, Lucas Harrington, very highly rated Aussie from Colorado, Jens Gereto Dahl from Tromsø, Joe Gelhardt, finally someone I've heard of, from Leeds, Lucas Gorner-Douth from Salzburg, Elliot Stroud from Malby, Hidemasa Morita from Sporting Lisbon, Matt Targett and Jack Butland are in. They've let 2, 4, 6, 8 go as well. They begin at home to Manchester United, then they go to Coventry, home to Villa, away to Chelsea, away to Newcastle. They won the playoffs last year after finishing 6th in the Championship. Barry.
I'm getting big Sunderland vibes off Hull this season. Just it's a manager I think most people outside of Hull don't know a huge amount about. They've signed an awful lot of players. I haven't heard of quite a few of them. Joe Gelhardt was with them last season on loan from Leeds. That's been made permanent. Look, Hull are weird in that most people expected them to get relegated from the Championship last season. They conceded the 4th highest number of goals in the Championships last season. Their XG against, I think, would have had them relegated last season, and they somehow got promoted. Make it make sense. So they're in the Premier League now, and I think, like Sunderland last season, everyone is expecting them to go straight back down. Sunderland have showed what can be done with astute signings in the transfer market, because very few of the players that got Sunderland up contributed to their cause last season. And it looks like Hull might be trying a similar approach. Whether it'll work or not, I don't think it will, but I'm not going to write them off after what Sunderland did last season. I think much will hinge on whether Ollie McBurney and Joe Gelhardt can score goals in the Premier League. I think they might struggle, but McBurney got 19 last season, I think. That's brilliant effort. He was a free transfer. They also played most of last season, I think, under a transfer embargo. They couldn't spend any money on players. So just for them to be in the Premier League is just it's almost incredible. I don't think they'll stay in it, but I hope they prove. I'd love if they prove me wrong.
Well, they had to sell players in June, didn't they, just to avoid a points penalty? So they've already won. They already got 6 points in the bag. They didn't. They might not have had. But it's really hard to predict with a team like this. I think Baz has made very eloquently the case of why most people are looking at them and thinking they're doomed. It was something like 19.9 points more than their expected points was the number I saw throw around. If we want to go into the XG and the X goals against, you just have these things that happen in football, stories that happen that sometimes feel like magic but actually come down to things like good management. And Yakirovich, I think it was the playoff semi-final against Millwall when he swapped from a 4-2-3-1 to playing back three and wing backs, and that just really threw Millwall off their game. So he's obviously a canny manager, knows what he's doing. Baz has already mentioned McBurney, who has banged them in the Championship. I think he's had 2 goes before in the top flight and scored 6 each time, which obviously isn't a great return. But I'm always the one who bangs on about players' careers aren't static. You reach different points in your career, you have different levels of confidence, you're more certain of your game. So you never know. But I think on paper, it's hard to make the case that this is not a team that's going to struggle a lot in the top flight.
Yeah, I don't get Sunderland vibes about Hull at all. I find it very difficult to put an argument as to why they could stay in the Premier League this season. like Nicky said, looking through their squad, a lot of the players that have been in the Premier League before weren't good enough then. And this is 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I fear for some of those players in the squads now. I did speak to one of my friends though last night in doing a bit of research on Hull.
Is it Phil Brown?
It wasn't Phil Brown,
Okay.
but it was a friend of mine whose dad is a massive Hull fan.
Okay.
And he tells me I checked it, they've signed this young defender, he's Australian,
Yeah,
Lucas
Harrington. Yeah.
who's very young, but they're very excited about what he could become. How much he plays this season, we don't know, but it could be a thing of in 2, 3
He was
years.
at the World Cup.
He was at the World Cup,
had a good one as well.
And, everyone in Australian football is so excited about him. And I don't know if that's because there aren't any good
Let's get excited about.
male Australian footballers at the moment, or he genuinely is the absolute real deal. But yeah, he's like a sort of languid, cultured centre back, and he could be great.
Remember the name. Remember the name.
I think it says so much about this, unfortunately, about the demographic we have on our panel that we've immediately mentioned Phil Brown. It's the first thing I think when I come back to the Premier League.
Of course.
Is Phil Brown on Boxing Day,
Yeah.
sat with all of his players out. And it's really unfair because they've had a whole time in the Premier League since then.
Yeah,
But
look, I have them 19th, and I mainly put them there because I knew everyone else would put them 20th. But where have you put them, Barry?
20.
Nicky?
20th.
Jordan?
20.
Ipswich Town then, managed by Gary O'Neill after Kieran McKenna left. They brought in Julien Ciso, Emerson, Abdul Fatawu, Florentino. Maeda's come in from Celtic, Sasa Lukic and Issa Diop have come in from Fulham. Kel Sherpen is a keeper who's come in from Union Saint-Gilloise, and another keeper they brought in from FC Volendam called Kanye van Wevelen. They haven't lost that many. Sammy Schmorix, Wes Burns and Harry Clark have gone. They begin at home to Sunderland, then go to Old Trafford, home to Liverpool, away to Palace, away to Everton. They came second in the Championship last year. O'Neill, Nicky, sort of strange. I think he's sort of harshly treated because he's sort of quite dour, and he's not Gary O'Neillio. That perhaps we don't, like, nobody goes, oh my God, it's Gary O'Neill, but actually it might be a canny appointment.
Yeah, it's a really tough gig to follow, isn't it? Kieran McKenna obviously has brought them up twice, having brought them up from League One, and who has so much goodwill with the fans. I feel like anyone who comes into that is going to have a hard time, and probably having I don't know, for want of a better way of putting it, the straight man coming is the best you can do at that point. Have someone who's just going to be no nonsense about it and get on with the job. And it's obviously meaningless until they start playing games and you see what's actually happening. But he's projecting that level of confidence, I feel like, at the moment, that makes me feel like he at least thinks that this big investment they've done, bringing in this backbone of players with Issa Diop and Lukic and Florentino has helped them, and that they might actually be able to do something with that. And I don't know. I've been trying. I think part of this is I've been trying to convince myself, because it's more interesting, that one of these newly promoted teams has to stay up. And between the spend and that general sense of momentum about the club that has done this before, learned some lessons from it, and come back again, I'm trying to make the case in my own head for Ipswich to be the team that stays up.
Yeah, I've put them 17th. Do you get Sunderland vibes from them, Jordan?
More so. Some good acquisitions over the summer. And to Nicky's point earlier on about the importance of good management, this could be an example of where good management could override an average squad. He could really get something out of them. And I know a lot of people who know him very well, Gary O'Neill, and they speak very highly of him. He's not one of these guys that will just stick to, this is my philosophy, this is how I'm going to play. He will be flexible, and I think in a team that's promoted, I think you need that as well. My fear for all the promoted teams always is goal scorer. I think you need to score goals if you're coming up.
Well, they brought in the big guy.
They've brought in Emerson, the first ever Brazilian to play for Ipswich, apart from Alan Brazil, of course. Their record signing, 24 million. And they've got these little guys, and Ciso, like the only Paraguayan to actually kick the ball, and the other players at the World Cup, Fatawu and Maeda. So if those little guys can get around Emerson, there's a sort of vibe there.
Chubak, Pom as well might score goals for them. I'm looking at their signings now. That I think Issa Diop and who's the other fellow?
Sasa
Lukic. I think they're good signings, or will be good signings if they can stay fit. My concern for Ipswich is they also brought in Abdul Fatawu, who is looking to avoid his third consecutive relegation, and they have Darragh O'Shea, who has been relegated 3 times with 3 different teams in the last 5 seasons. Right. So, get those Jonas out of here. But I have them 19th, and I think maybe they might actually be better than 19th, but I'll stick with 19th.
No, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because, it's hard to come into the Premier League. I've got them 17th, Nicky.
I put them all the way up in 16.
Whoa,
but yeah.
17th
as well. Leeds United then under Daniel Farke have brought in James Trafford for a club record 40 million in goal. A centre-back from Sassuolo called Tarek Muharamovic. Nico Elvedi as another centre-back coming from Mönchengladbach, and Harry Wilson has come in, which I learnt last night. Joe Gelhardt, Jack Harrison, Max Wober, Carl Darlow and Pascal Strike have gone. They begin at Forest, then home to Brentford, away to Brighton, home to Newcastle, home to Palace. Jordan, they're like, recruitment last season was get big lads, and they've got some other big lads. You know, Trafford, I mean, keeper is slightly different, but Muharamovic and Elvedi are pretty big as well. And then Harry Wilson, I think, is a really good signing.
Very good. And they did him early as well in the summer as well. I think that's a very good bit of business. I think Leeds are going to have a very good season this year. And I think a lot of the teams they're going to be competing with in the part of the table have European football. And they don't, which I think could massively work in
real
Leeds'
nodding.
favour.
Yeah, I really agree. I'm really with Jordan on this one.
I think they're going to have a really good year. I liked how the second half of the season went. There was that pivotal game against Manchester City, I think it was. Was it at home?
Away.
Was it
They
away?
were losing and they changed formation.
That's right. And I think from then they could just they kicked on. Also, I'm banking on them doing well, but they've got some of their attackers, Nonto, Kaforo, and Nemecha, and Calvert-Lewin. If they can keep all those guys fit, there's a lot of goals there. It's a big if.
Sure.
But if they can keep those guys fit, I think Leeds are going to have a really good
Wilson.
season. And Harry Wilson behind them, 10
goals last season,
Yeah.
I think 7 assists as well. Muharamovic, the defender they signed from Sassuolo, I think he's really, really good player. He was another of these Juventus next-gen players who for some reason they let go too easily, and then he had a great season at Sassuolo, and I think he was one of the steals of the summer, honestly. I think he's going to be a player destined for more big things. I think he's a really great defender. Had a whole rap song dedicated to him at Sassuolo.
Right. Would you like to do it for us?
No, it's awful.
Okay.
Is he the first player in Premier League history to have all 5 vowels in his surname?
I mean, let me just open my database. It's a good question, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know either. I probably should have
say yes.
checked.
No,
I'm going to say yes.
Listeners can do some work. Football Weekly at theguardian.com. I've got them 13th, but what about you, Baz, before these guys put them into Europe?
I understand the optimism around them. I'm not convinced they'll be as brilliant as everyone or a lot of people seem to think, but I think they'll be fine. I have them 15th.
Nicky?
I've got them all up in 7th.
7th?
Yeah.
7th.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting. All right, that'll do for part 1. Part 2 will begin with Liverpool. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Liverpool then managed by Andoni Iraola from Bournemouth. They brought in Jeremy Jacquet, Victor Munoz and Ronald Araujo. Obviously no Salah, no Konate, no Andy Robertson. A lot of experience leaving there. They begin at Newcastle, then home to Forest, away to Ipswich, home to Fulham, away to Bournemouth. So not an unpleasant start. They came 5th last year. Looks so interesting, Nicky, to see. Is one of those complete unknowables below Arsenal of these sides that could challenge, or it could be really hard going.
It's really a tough one because I think so highly of Iraola, and I think that the project may well, if he's given the time, have legs. But at the moment, when I look at what's happened this summer, I don't feel hugely confident about it. It feels like they've said goodbye to some pretty big players, obviously Salah, but also Andy Robertson, Konate. Feels like the squad has not addressed positions of weakness at full-back in particular. It just feels like there's a lot of questions still when I look at this team and ask, where's the depth, where's the stability, and some of the signings. I mean, Araujo's a really interesting signing, a fascinating signing, because of course he was captain of Barcelona, but took that break in the middle of last season and didn't start a lot of games afterwards. And is he at his best version of himself? It's a really difficult thing to even talk about, because I don't want to speculate at all about a guy's personal situation that caused him to take that break. But you still, purely in a footballing sense, just wonder, like, is he where he needs to be to play at the levels he's capable of? Because he's capable of very good levels. And then the defence, they brought in Jeremy Jacquet, who 63 million euros, I think it was, obviously a player they think very highly of. But you've got Van Dijk, who's getting older. You've got Giovanni Leoni, this kid they signed from Parma, who's been injured basically the entire time since he's been there. It just feels a bit all uncertain. And maybe Iraola's good enough to bring it together, but I just think it might take a minute.
Sure. He is a notoriously slow starter. I mean, you do think, Barry, even though they were signed last year, it's like it's almost like the first season for Isak, Wirtz, Frimpong, Kerkez, those guys. And if they can have a better second season, and lots of players do, that could be a big difference.
I have faith in Florian Wirtz. A lot of people don't, and I can understand their reticence. But I think he will be a fine player for Liverpool. Isak, obviously, his season was ruined by injury. We know he is a good player. Kirk has been reunited with the former manager. You talk about Iraola's slow start. I mean, the football Liverpool were playing last season was slow, ponderous, side to side. Fans hated it. That's going to change under Iraola. But when he took over at Bournemouth, they didn't win any of the first 10 matches. That won't be tolerated.
No, that's harder at Anfield.
Yeah. And there's no doubt in my mind he will be a success, but he has to be given time. The fans have to be patient. I mean, they may well start superbly and roar out of the traps, but precedent with Iraola suggests it takes players a while to get the hang of what he wants them to do.
I think they're a mess. I think they're a real mess. I think they're banking right back on Bradley being fit, and I just don't see that happening. Van Dijk is a year older, as we mentioned. They haven't replaced Salah on the right. Isak, let's see how he comes back, but I have concerns about whether he can manage being the main man at a team the size of Liverpool Football Club. Florian Wirtz is a crazy good talent, but I just worry about the physical demands of this league on someone like him. I think he might get swallowed up. I think there's real issues in that squad. I think it's the right manager with the wrong squad. And I take Barry's point about how he wants to play. I don't think he's got the players to play that way. I don't think the fans will turn on him quickly because they took a while to turn on Slot, and Liverpool fans don't like turning on their manager.
But Slot had a title.
He did. True. I don't think there'll be any rush to kind of get him out if it goes poorly quickly. But I think Liverpool are going to finish lower than a lot of people think.
Right. I mean, I've put them 5th.
I've got them 6th.
Okay.
I feel like Jordan and I are copying each other's homework. I put them 6th as well.
6th as well.
Yeah.
4th. Okay. But Szoboszlai didn't play in the World Cup, so he should be fair. He was like brilliant last year, wasn't he? But yeah, there's just so much unknown. And then we go to Manchester City under Enzo Maresca. Boyan Elliott Anderson, Jeremy Mongo as well, Matthias Detourbe. Players will come in. There is a possibility of more happening. Ake, Stones, Bernardo, Rodri, all leaving. A lot of experience there. Bournemouth at home, Palace away, Coventry at home, Man United away, Sunderland at home. They came second last year, did win the FA Cup and the League Cup. Look, we talked about it a bit on Monday because we had the Community Shield. But Barry, again, it's just impossible to know how this will go.
Yeah, I feel it won't go particularly well for Maresca because I think just being the guy that takes over from the guy is too hard. And that was my opinion before the Community Shield. I'm not going to read too much into the Community Shield, but I was genuinely alarmed by what I saw there. If I was a City fan, I get it's just the curtain raiser and a glorified friendly, but that was worrying how bad they were. Maybe it was just a one-off. I know you discussed it yesterday. They've lost a lot of experience in Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Stones, to a lesser extent Ake, and Kanji's gone as well. I think much will depend on Phil Foden, who is due a good season after 2 very underwhelming ones. But they still have plenty of terrific players. It looks like they may lose Savino as well. I think Tottenham are after him, are they?
Yeah. Been after him for about 5 years.
Okay. But again, I it's hard to tell. There's so much uncertainty. They're one of those teams that has so much uncertainty surrounding them. I have them 3rd, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were outside the top 5.
I agree with the difficulty predicting them. I think it's so easy to jerk our knees a bit too much after that Community Shield, right? Because it's still Erling Haaland up front. It's still
Semenyo and Doku,
exactly,
right?
Semenyo, Doku, Foden. I mean, 100 players behind them who are all world class. They've got so much quality. But I do think what Barry was just saying, it's not just the names and the types of players that you've lost, and obviously that they really are screaming out for a Rodri type. They haven't got that in the squad right now, it feels like, to replace him. I don't think Elliot Anderson is the same kind of player.
But Buwadi, they're clinging on for that.
Yeah, and clearly the transfer window isn't over, and by the time people listen to this, maybe we'll be out of date. But I do think that more the point for me right now is when you say goodbye to as big of an overarching figure as Pep Guardiola, not just a manager, but someone who has really defined a whole chapter at a club. My next question is, okay, so who are the leaders who are still there? Who are the people who are going to give you some continuity? And that's what I think is going to go with those players. Who are the leaders in this City team? I don't know. Haaland, probably.
And also, the president of Sir Alex leaving, or slightly different with Wenger, but even Wenger leaving, it just naturally just takes time, right?
Yeah, but I think that's as big of a question for me as anything is who's going to, because it is very, very hard to step into those shoes from Maresca. It doesn't matter who it is; it's a very hard job. Yeah. Who in the squad is going to pull this all together and say, "Listen, guys, we need to help here. We need to make this work." And maybe someone will, but I think that was the alarm bell that was ringing for them after.
I suppose Slot came in after Klopp and did win the league. It is possible.
But even with that example, Slot came in with a squad that was
sure.
Do you know what I mean? They were set. There's changes here. This screams massively of you can't tell me what to do. You're not my real dad. I think there's going to be massive concerns from a lot of those players, many of whom might not have played under Pep for very long, But I think City are in trouble here. I think the Rodri sell is absolute insanity. I know people will say if a player wants to leave, you can't keep him. I would be begging him, give us one more year. You can go next summer. You can go wherever you want. You can get more money. I think it's crazy after Pep, Silva and Stones have all left to let the guy just won the World Cup and the Ballon d'Or winner leave and is the kind of the hub of everything good about your team go. I think is absolute insanity. I think it's crazy. A midfield of Anderson, who I think is overrated. And to be clear, I like him. Mm-hmm. I just think 14 million I think is double what I think it should have been paid for him, but it is what it is, I guess. I think him next to Bawadi, potentially in midfield, I think is going to be very difficult. But I get the sense that they're thinking, let's build a team to win the title next season. So almost this year, just get top 4 this year, get Champions League football and plan for next year. And lastly on Phil Foden, it's a massive year because people talk about Phil Foden as this great talent, which he is. I get Dele Alli vibes about him, and people will talk about. I remember doing a show on TalkSport years ago with a co-host. I won't mention his name. He was saying, "Yeah, Dele Alli will come back to form. He'll be really good. Be really, really good. He'll be good." And I'm like, it's been 4 seasons, and people forget that he goes really quickly. And I really feel Phil Foden needs a season this year where there's no De Bruyne now, there's no David Silva, there's no Bernardo Silva. There's no excuse for you to now not be the guy that can return to that form of 2 years ago. So I think it's a huge year for him. I think City are going to struggle a little bit this season.
Where do you have them?
3rd, but I think there'll be a massive gap between 3rd and the top 2.
Right. Okay. I mean, it sounded like you had them about 15 from that.
I know, after all of that.
I've got them 4th.
3rd.
I've gone 4th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're below Liverpool, who I just put 6th. So I think it's up in the air.
Manchester United then, Michael Carrick, the manager. They brought in Andre Santos from Chelsea, centre mid. Yuri Tielemans from Villa, Carl Darlow. Nice to have Carl Darlow and Tom Heaton as your backup keepers. Casemiro has gone. Andre Onana as well, and Jadon Sancho. They go to Hull, then home to Ipswich, away to Everton, home to Man City, away to Fulham. Did we give Carrick enough praise last year? Barry? Yeah, or did we give him? Because I just
I can't remember how much praise we gave him, so I don't know.
Neither can I. I just sort of look and go, maybe we should have been more glowing about it, but maybe we were.
I don't think we slammed him or anything. No, I genuinely can't remember.
Someone puts in a supercut of Barry just saying
how much praise we gave him, so I can't answer your question. Look, he was interim manager, and during his spell as interim head coach, Manchester United won more points than Arsenal did in the same time period. So he did a very good job. Now he's got the gig full time. It's a completely different job he's got. He's going to have, he had 1 game a week. Arsenal obviously had more because they were working their way to the Champions League final. Much more will be expected of him now. He's going to have to play a lot more games. I think Manchester United are light in a few positions. I think I think Yuri Tielemans is hideously underrated as a footballer. And to get him for 35 million is brilliant, I think. And if he stays fit, I think he'd be a brilliant addition. But I do think they're light in other areas. They're going to have to play more games. But they're another one of those teams you just don't know. It's so hard to predict how they'll do. I think he'll do all right. But I don't think United will be hoovering up points at the rate they were during his interim spell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, about Tielemans. It's interesting, Nicky, like him and Fernandes is very attacking. If you're going to play Mbeumo and Cunha and maybe Sesko. And Casemiro had a weird time there where he was, sometimes he looked like a caravan and sometimes he was really brilliant. But I still think sort of the holding midfield role with all that attacking threat is hard to know how they fill that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, one of the things that I feel looking at a lot of these teams that we're talking about as potential title challenges, potential Champions League challenges. You look at them and think, well, there's a really nice starting team there, but has it got the depth? And yeah, that again, holding position is a part of the question with the depth with this United team. And I do think different season for them with the European demands. I do wonder if anything's going to come of this. I think still odd story that's floating around that Bruno Fernandes, with 1 year left in his contract, is flirting with Galatasaray. I mean, it seems unthinkable that you would walk out at this point when the project feels like it's on the up, but the story is persistent. The story is out there, and if he were to go, then obviously at least you've got Tielemans to go in that space, but it would be a huge loss to the club.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there is cover, but he was so brilliant last year.
He's the best player, I think. I mean, I think he's a sensational player, Bruno Fernandes, and maybe it's just nonsense paper talk. Obviously, Liverpool. Man United have been saying they're not going to let him go anywhere. But I don't know. I've been surprised at how much legs that story seems to have, and it may just still come to nothing. But
I'm a bit like Liverpool. I'm massively underwhelmed with their summer so far. I think Man United were 2 or 3 players away from being serious. I think I'm not having any of their right backs. I think left back, they definitely need some quality there. I know Shaw played most of the season last year, but I don't think we want to rely on him again. I think Sesko is second season. He came in for big money. I think there's a lot of pressure on him now to be the guy. It was him, then it was Mbeumo, then it was Cunha. I think he now has to become, I'm your main striker. I'll get you 20 goals. I was really excited, Max, about Mainu's season this year. I thought he was really going to have a year where he would assert himself. He signs a contract and then they go and sign Santos and Tielemans. If I was him, I'd be raging. I'd be raging because I really think he's a great talent.
He got a lot of minutes for England. He'll be fine.
Well, there's that as well. So I'm really surprised that they've done that off the back of signing him down.
And the rumours they still want Lewis Skelly, who you think can't be going, but
Yeah, I mean, I think he solves 2 of their problems, left back and in midfield. I don't think that he'll be going there now. But yeah, I don't think United will be anywhere near the title. I think they're still 2-3 signings away from being a team that I look at as a serious outfit for pushing Arsenal.
Right. I've got them third.
Seventh.
Okay.
I went third as well.
I've got them 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth.
Fifth, okay.
I just literally realised that I said third, and that's not what I've got written down.
Right.
I've written on my predicted table they're fifth. I obviously changed my mind at the last minute. They're fifth in my table. Apparently, I've got someone else.
Okay, fine, that's fine. Newcastle then, Matthias Jessler comes in for Eddie Howe. They've brought in Lucas Hornacek, goalkeeper, Alaji Bamba, a centre mid, Sean Stour, a centre mid as well, Bazumana Toure, a left winger, and Ewan Zhawan, a keeper. I can't give you a lot of information on any of those players.
Maradedic is another one they brought in,
okay.
Bosnian from Benfica,
Thank you.
back.
Guimaraes has gone, Tonali's gone, Anthony Gordon's gone, Trippier's gone, Emil Kraft has gone, Eddie Howe's gone. They begin at home
Matt Targett's gone.
Matt Targett's gone, of course. Yeah, sorry. They begin at home to Liverpool, go to Spurs, home to Bournemouth, away to Leeds, home to Hull. I mean, there's so much change there, Nicky. The manager's very highly rated, but it feels like a massive job.
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily have high expectations for finishing high up the table of Newcastle, but I have a feeling they're going to be a really fun team to watch, oddly. I think they've said goodbye to some pretty significant players. It feels like, well, there's been in the headlines, hasn't it? Newcastle 2.0, whatever that means. But yeah, it's the refreshed young version, and it's clearly based around Jessler's idea of this very attacking, very direct style of football. And you've got players there like Alanga and Will Azula, who we saw flashes of last season. I think he played like 800 minutes and scored 8 goals. And he's really fun to watch, absolutely chaotic, and you're not quite sure if he's in control of anything that he's doing, but it certainly can be effective. And I don't know, I think they're going to be a different team, and exactly what that's going to look like I'm not sure, but I have a feeling they're going to score some goals and upset some people.
I think people have gotten really struggling this year because they've lost so many players and lost their manager. I think it's a very lazy assumption that because we don't really know a manager that's come in that obviously they're going to struggle. I don't know a lot about him, and the players that have come in. Again, I looked them up, and I don't know. I won't pretend like I've watched these guys and can tell you how good they are. But I think it's almost a good thing that he gets to start from scratch. Players have gone, new players have come in. I can build this team over 2 or 3 seasons and build it in my image rather than working with Eddie Howe's players and they're not my players, and that's why we're losing games. So I don't think they'll do great, but I don't have them as low as I think a lot of people do this season.
The consistent thing from his previous jobs, Salzburg and then at Al Ahly, is very high press, high turnover way of playing, which again like lends itself to young squad and just go for it, trust them to go for it.
Sure.
Waterman has become a little bit of a figure of fun last year. I don't know why. I really like him.
I really like him, but he didn't do much.
He didn't do great.
He scored some really cool goals.
He did. Yeah. But I think he's better than I think he showed last season.
I laughed there, Barry, because I know where you've put them, and Jordan just said a lazy assumption that they're not going to do well. And like, cross now to my learned friend.
Well, on the face of it, it looks like a really bad summer. They've lost one of their most successful coaches in their history and arguably their 3 best players. That's not good.
No.
Now, I don't think Eddie Howe is that much of a loss because I think his time was up at Newcastle. I think he kept them up when he came in after the takeover, won them silverware, got to the Champions League twice. Good, great. But I think last season they were not good and at all. And so I don't think he's a huge loss. Matthias Jassel may be very good. We don't know. Time will tell. They have had a bad summer, you'd have to say. They missed out on Manzambi, they missed out on Munoz. The day they missed out on Munoz, a couple of members of our production team met their chief executive, David Hopkinson, in Los Angeles. He was very, very sad about losing out on Munoz to Liverpool. They're signing young, cheap replacements. You know, Newcastle fans often complain about being hamstrung by PSR. That's fair enough. They are up to a point. But what is the club doing to try and get around it? Like, you know, Spurs do things to try and increase the amount of wriggle room they have and do it with great success. Newcastle haven't done anything. I think they'll struggle this season. And I think David Hopkinson gave this interview to The Athletic where he tried to spin what's gone on at the club this summer as actually being very exciting and this is Newcastle 2.0. That's not the Newcastle that Newcastle fans signed up for at the takeover. I don't think this is what those...
Was he the guy who said they're going to be the best football team in the world in 2030?
Yes, yeah. Okay. I think he's revised that opinion.
Right, okay.
But, you know, I know there are a minority of weirdos, but those people who were dancing around with tea towels on their heads and singing about Messi washing the boots, this isn't the Newcastle they signed up for.
Although the spend this summer suggests that, contrary to reports, that the ownership aren't losing interest in the club.
Because that is interesting.
But I mean, they spent a fortune last summer. None of the money they spent, none of it was spent well. Now those
Whistler's going to be better, surely, right?
Well, you can't be. None of them. I don't think any of them can be worse. No, like, literally cannot be worse.
I have them 15th. Jordan?
13th.
I don't know how I'm
been
on the same
working
as you.
together?
What's going on
crazy.
You shouldn't have prepped together,
It's on
guys.
here. I've written it all together. Yeah.
I'm relegating them. I have them 18th.
You have them 18th.
Yikes.
Tin hat on.
Look, it's just an opinion.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We will see. We'll
It's
see.
an opinion. Other opinions are available.
That'll do for part 2. Part 3 we'll give with Nottingham Forest. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Oliver Glasner, the new manager of Nottingham Forest, Palace fans be delighted with that when they brought in Ousmane Diamande, a centre back from Sporting, Gustavo Sarr, an attacking midfielder, Javier Schlager from RB Leipzig, a centre mid. They've lost Elliot Anderson, they've lost Stefan Ortega and Angus Gunn, and Willy Bolly's gone as well. They begin at home to Leeds, then go to Liverpool, home to Spurs, away to Villa, home to Coventry. Look, Glasner is a very good manager, Nicky, but I don't know. I don't know how you feel Forest will do.
I don't think they're going to be tearing up trees.
Or like that. See what you did
Yeah.
there.
I didn't do it on purpose. Isn't that embarrassing? Damn, I should have carried that. But I expect some stability. Like, they went through 4 managers last season, and
Can there ever be stability
Right.
with Marinakis?
I have a feeling that Glasner's going to last a little bit longer, and I think he's going to do fine. I think they're going to. Spoilers, I don't have them getting relegated, and I think that's probably the first and most important bar for them still. I think while they have lost Anderson, you still look at that team and think they've got a solid core of players you feel like you can rely on between Milenkovic, Neco Williams, even Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, obviously 15 goals last season. It doesn't feel like a team that's going to fall apart just because Anderson's gone. And I think with a good manager in charge, there's reasons to be optimistic. You're right, if the owner lets him, but that it can start becoming a project that builds and without doing it overnight is heading in the right direction.
I mean, I guess it's just Glasner has to be happy because if he's not happy, he talks about it.
Yeah.
And if you talk about not liking Marinakis, that's a dangerous thing to do.
Well, like last season was totally chaotic for Forest, and they still stayed up quite comfortably. They are now on their 5th head coach in a calendar year, is it? I can totally envisage them getting to the 6th, 7th, 8th before too long. Glasner doesn't suffer fools, and I can't envisage a world where he doesn't fall out with Marinakis quite quickly. But literally nothing would surprise me for us. If they challenged for Europe or if they went down, nothing would shock me. So I've taken the sort of cowardly way and put them nice, comfy mid-table.
See, I have them 18th because I'm predicting an implosion.
Right.
And also, I just didn't want to relegate all the promoted teams. But I'm with you. They could easily get into the Conference League. I wouldn't be surprised.
I rate Glasner highly. I think he's a brilliant manager. I think there could be fight-ups between him and the owner there as well. I agree with that. I think they're in for a really boring season in that I've got them 10th. So I think their defence will keep plenty of clean sheets. I don't think they've got a striker that can score goals to make them do anything special. I know they've got Chris Woods there, but it feels like his amazing season was 2 years ago. I can't see him scoring 15 plus goals again. So they've got to bring in a striker for me if they want to really kick on for those European places.
14th.
Right, Sunderland then, Reggie Labrie, they brought in Thomas Mounier and Nilson Angulo, who is a left winger. Who's gone? Arthur Masuako, who I didn't know was there.
They've just signed a left back from Toulouse called Dejan Metheli.
Thank you, Barry.
Who's apparently quite the sign.
Right, Anthony Patterson, the keeper's gone, and Bertrand Traore's gone. They begin at Ipswich, then home to Fulham, away to Brentford, home to Arsenal, away to Man City. They came 7th, of course. The tricky second season, Baz. But they've kept everyone, you know. You just wonder if... I just wondered, you know, there were rumours of Xhaka to Chelsea. They've obviously got other real talents there. And so to keep all those players, you must be very enthused.
I am enthused, yeah. They haven't had the summer splurge of last season where I think they brought in 12, 13 players. But they have, as you say, held on to Granit Xhaka. They've held on to Brian Brobby, Enzo Lefebvre, Noah Siddiqui, Omar Alderete, all of whom will have had suitors this summer. Look, there's still a couple of weeks to go in the window, but I'm hopeful of them hanging on to them. I think everyone was shocked by how well they did last season, finishing 7th. Now they reap the rewards or / pay the price for that success by going into a Europa League campaign, which Sunderland fans will love, but it may also hurt them in the Premier League, the Thursday-Saturday grind. Luke O'Nien, obviously, he's another one they've held on to. He was on the High Performance podcast this summer, so I reckon he'll be buoyed by a couple of hours.
He'll be
Hueled up to the yin-yang after a couple of hours in the company of Jake Humphrey and his sidekick. Who wouldn't perform on the back of a pep talk like that? I don't think they'll finish anywhere near as high as they did last season, but I hope they'll be okay.
And my notes were, I'm surprised they've still held on to Brobby.
I love Brobby.
I'm stunned no one's come in for him. I've got them 15th, but I would ask a Sunderland fan, if you gave them 15th and a quarterfinal spot in the Europa Conference. Europa League, sorry. You'd take that as a season. If I offered you 15th.
I'd want a semi-final.
All right, sorry.
I mean, I have two friends who are Sunderland fans named Jonathan. They've both booked their hotel rooms in Frankfurt for the Europa League final.
Wow, that's great.
So one of them is Wilson.
Yeah, of course.
And one of them is Norman's dad.
You've got to have hope. I mean, I love Brobby. Just he's so much fun, but also like a brilliant centre forward. He's brilliant at holding up the ball. But I have him 16th, Nicky. I just think Europe as well is really hard.
I'm with you on that, Max. I've got them 17th, just clinging on. I think you think about a team like Forest last season who were alternating games between fighting against relegation and trying to win a European trophy. And I can sort of imagine that kind of season for Sunderland. Also because if you do get that far, where's your focus? Where's your excitement? What's keeping you up? And I think that they won't get relegated, but I do think the distraction of European football is going to take their eye off the Premier League quite a lot.
And again, the manager's really good. He's not a clown. He's a really good manager. So I'd trust him to, at the bare minimum, keep them in the Premier League.
I have them 14th.
14th. Okay. Have I got yours, Jordan?
Felt 15th.
15th as well. Spurs then, finally. Bottom of the league alphabetically after no games. Roberto De Zerbi, the manager. They brought in Tonali from Newcastle, Matthias Fernandes from West Ham, both for big money. Jean-Paul Van Hecker, we talked about in the Brighton section, 50-odd million. Marcos Senesi's come in from Bournemouth. Andy Robertson's coming from Liverpool. A lot of players have gone. Voskovic to Brighton, going the other way. Christian Romero's gone. Jed Spence gone. Manuel Solomon, Dragusin, Basuma, Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips, Will Lancashire as well. They start at Brentford, home to Newcastle, away to Forest, home to Everton, home to Villa. 17th 2 years running. Aware there are 2 Arsenal fans on the pod here. De Zerbi kept them up, Jordan. They have a new midfield, 2 new centre-backs. Could this be great?
It could be great. I mean, in the way we spoke about possible fireworks between Glasner and Marinakis, there could be fireworks between De Zerbi and Richarlison. That's the fight I'm looking forward to seeing this season potentially. They're building a team from the back into midfield, which they've made some really good signings, I think, that give them a foundation at the bare minimum. If I'm a Spurs fan, and I'm not, I'd be then thinking, okay, we need a striker. Where are the goals coming from in this team? Where are we going to score some goals? That's what I think they need to do. And for me, there's players like Brobbey, Mateta, Sade in the Premier League, who I think are good Premier League strikers that if I'm Spurs, I'd be looking at getting. My last point would be on Maddison. There was this massive narrative going around last year that, when Maddison's back, Spurs will be really good. And I'm like, I like Maddison.
I love Maddison.
But the idea that he's this guy that's going to save them and propel them from relegation to a Premier League win, I just thought was really bizarre. I like him, but I think they're putting much too much pressure on a talented player, but one that I don't think would be the difference in going to where I think they want to be.
Sure. I mean, I guess the point is, Nicky, is if Maddison actually had a midfield behind him that could do anything, and he actually got the ball in positions where he could do what he's really good at, that could make a difference. How do you feel
And
about
if
that?
Madison was ever fit, then we could have this conversation maybe. I mean, I think that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating him there. Maybe he'll come back this season and have a lot of games, but I think he's not in shape to start the season. Is that right?
That's right,
yeah. Very interesting team this season. I was thinking about, I was talking before about leaders, the importance of having leaders in your squad, and of course, Christian Romero, club captain's going, and maybe it's a good thing that your leaders leave if they're Christian Romero.
Yeah.
You can clear out and start over. But I like De Zerbi. He's, or at least the manager. I think he's done good work there, and I think he's got that bit of momentum now. I do think it's fascinating with my Italian hat on that I was told repeatedly by everyone that Italy have no quality players, but a Premier League club's willing to go out and spend nearly 100 million on one of them to lead the midfield.
How good is Tonali?
I think he's a good player. The prices, I mean, I made that comment a bit flippantly.
Sure.
To a certain extent, I don't care what people pay for footballers. Either they'll be good and everyone won't care,
and there's so
or
much
they won't
context
be.
about who is signed where from who and who needs what and all that.
Yeah. I like Tonali. I think he's got that ability to control games. I think he's got the ability to take over games. I think about how he played for Milan that season. They went to the Champions League semi-final and eventually got knocked out by Inter. He was monstrous that season. Then obviously his career got disrupted by the long ban over the betting incident, and I thought he showed some good things at Newcastle, and perhaps this is the fresh start he needs again to have a team built around him. And I do think he's one of those players who thrives on responsibility. So I don't know if he's ready to say he'll be a leader of this team, but I do think that De Zerbi clearly has a plan for him and wants to say, hey, you're the guy. And I think that'll be good for him.
I mean, Spurs, someone always wins the transfer window, don't they? And it looks like Spurs are going to win it this season, even if some of their fans are unhappy that they're not signing enough attacking players. It's all defenders and midfielders. At the time of recording this, I think they're after Cody Gakpo and maybe Savino. Mm-hmm. They've both blown hot and cold for various teams in the Premier League. I think Spurs have also really annoyed fans of Newcastle and Villa, and to a lesser extent Everton, with all the money they're throwing around, because the new PSR rules, what are they called?
SCR.
Is
that it?
Yeah, you could, your Beyonce money counts towards profit, so you can spend that. And
also because they haven't been spending a lot, brackets, enough on wages to compete.
Yeah, and they've got their swanky, mega domes. So that's how you
Generate
these things. That's how you generate money to spend on players, and you can't do it overnight. And Villa and Newcastle need to take a leaf out of that book. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think they'll be fine. I cannot see them being anywhere near a relegation battle this season. I probably, if you go back to last season's equivalent to this podcast, I probably said the exact same thing.
Yeah, this time last year I was so enthused by them being 2-0 up against PSG and losing the Super Cup. I think I had them second or third or something.
Yeah.
Baffling. I think Kingsky's really interesting because it's just such an interesting story of a player who had that game against Atleti, and you thought his whole thing is done, and then actually in the last few games was absolutely brilliant. And so I'm sort of pleased they stuck with him.
Just interrogating Barry's last point there, but I think we all assume that they won't finish 17th again this season. But why? Think about the
because they were so much better after Zerbi came in. They're not going to have Igor Tudor for part of the season.
Yeah, and they don't have Europe, right? And I think it's so interesting now, this not just with Tottenham, but with all these sides that you play to get into Europe, and then you all go, well, they're not going to have a good year in the Premier League. And then all the teams that aren't in Europe should have a good year. I've got Chelsea second because they're not in Europe. And then you get in Europe, and it's kind of this really weird sort of flip-flop for loads of teams of different sizes, this kind of yo-yo thing where...
And I actually think that might be even more intense this season because we've had a World Cup. So all those players who are going to get burned out in Europe are even more burned out. And
also I think Romero going is good. And I think, Robertson might not play every minute, but is a really great leader. I think Senesi is
They've made some good signings, I agree.
Yeah.
When you say Romero leaving is good, and I do agree. But he also did save them a lot last year as well. There were a lot of big goals that he scored.
Yeah.
I remember scoring quite some 2 or 3 big goals last season. So
yes, but I'm sort of thinking, did he save them actually where he's meant to be? No, he didn't, because he was suspended the whole time. Anyway, I have them 6th. Jordan.
I have them 8th, which I think is a problem because that'll be a failure season. I think when you're not in Europe, you have to make sure that you use that season to get into Europe.
It might get them the Conference League.
Possible.
Oh, yeah, true.
Once again, we had a couple of different ones, but once again, I'm the same as Jordan. Yeah, back on track, 8th.
8th as well.
8th as well. Okay. We should ask you about Arsenal. In the yesterday's episode, everyone had them winning the league. So, Nicky, winning the league with style this year?
I think it's just hard to make... It doesn't mean they will win the league because football's football. Lots is going to happen over the next 9 months. But it's hard to make a strong case that any other team on paper should be ahead of them because Arsenal have got the stability. They have got such a deep squad. All of these teams we've been talking about, or at least the ones that are in that top part of the table, that's part of what I keep interrogating is, do they have the depth everywhere? Do they have it? Arsenal have the depth. They've got the manager who's been there and done it. On paper, they are the favourites. So, yeah, I've got them first.
My thinking was similar. I've got Arsenal retaining the title, but my thinking was rather than asking myself the question, will Arsenal win the title? I think the better question is, why won't they win the title? I think other teams, rivals you look at and you think they're all not quite right. They all seem, as I mentioned, 2 signings away from being a serious team. I think the one area where Arsenal could be weak is I still think up top. I don't think there's a striker there that I think can fire them to a title. Now, I know we won the league last year with Gyökeres up top, but I felt like we won the title in spite of him rather than because of him.
So harsh, isn't it, to win a medal and score 20-odd goals. How many did you get?
It is 15 in the league.
Okay.
And that's not a bad first season total, but I just feel like...
The in spite of award is really harsh, isn't it?
That's just how I feel.
Fair.
But I also think that defensively we were so good last year, especially at the start. I doubt we'll have another defensive year like that again. So I think those are the areas where I think, if there is a chink, it'll be in those areas.
Give us your top 5, Jordan.
My top 5, I've got Arsenal top, Chelsea second, I've got City third, I've got Bournemouth fourth.
Bournemouth 4th?
Yeah, and I've got United 5th.
Can I just hear a bit more on Bournemouth?
And I know they've lost their manager.
Everyone on Wilson and Philippe basically
had them down.
Had Marco Rosa as the biggest fraud in football.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
yeah,
The opposite.
yeah,
I really like him.
Okay.
I rate him really highly.
Like I have them 11th and I'm now regretting it after hearing the lads.
Who do I trust? Wilson and Philippe together or Vines man Jordan?
Right. I think they're a smart club that know what they're doing. Yeah. I think they will... I think contrary to what people think and that they peaked with 6 last year, they'll fall off. I think they'll go again. I accept that it's a very big shout.
Yeah.
I also have got Alex Scott winning Player of the Year. I think he's a brilliant player.
Great, yeah.
I think next year will be his year. So yeah, I've got them 4th.
What's your top 5, Nicky?
Arsenal, Chelsea. I put Aston Villa third.
Right.
I feel like Unai Emery does not get enough credit. Obviously, losing Tielemans is big, and I mean they've been shedding forwards left, right, and centre even since the middle of last season. But I think in a situation where there's so much change, I just think trust the club with a manager who has got his
Wilson
stuff
had them
in
third
order.
as well.
Man City fourth and Man United fifth.
Barry, your top 5?
Arsenal win, second Chelsea, third Man City, fourth Liverpool, fifth Aston Villa.
Can I just counter the Villa shouts because I've got.
Oh yeah, of course. Away we go.
Just because
it's the constants in
I
life.
actually had them quite high last year. I think I had them fourth predicting last season. So I've not got an agenda against my promise. I think they're going to struggle this year because I agree that Emery is a really underrated manager. I just wonder if he can keep churning out those. I think it's top 5 finishes under him since he's been there. I just wonder if he can keep going back to the well, keep going back. I fear there could be a drop off.
I have Arsenal, then Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, and Liverpool as my top 5. My bottom 3 is Coventry bottom, Hull 19th, Forest probably stupidly 18th. Jordan, your bottom 3?
My bottom 3 are Coventry as well, Hull and Fulham.
Right. Okay, Fulham is interesting as well, Nicky.
I just, because I needed to get someone in there who wasn't one of the new promoted teams. I'm sorry to the Palace fans. I put Palace in there on the basis of European competition, stretch themselves too thin. I decided someone was going to suffer for it, so I'm probably wrong. But I put Palace in there, and I've got Coventry and Hull with them.
I have Newcastle 18th, Ipswich 19th, and Hull 20th, and I think Hull may beat the Derby record.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay, it could be that bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, thanks everyone. That'll do for preview 2. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Nicky.
Thanks, Max.
Cheers, Baz.
Thanks.
As I said yesterday, these are our biggest pods of the season. We'd like you to put reviews on Apple and Spotify to say we're great. I mean, if you aren't going to say that, then don't, clearly. Presumably, if you're listening this far in, you don't hate this. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Blue Sky, on YouTube as well. We're going to be doing lots of new stuff throughout the season.
But can I also add, if anyone wants to criticise our choices on social media, unless you post your own, don't bother. Unless you post your own predictions, don't bother criticising ours.
Right. I take all feedback. I don't mind. Football Weekly is produced by Jesse Howard and Matt Bentley-Viney. Our executive producer is Joel Grove, and we'll be back after the first weekend of the Premier League on Monday.